and welcome to Nightlight, everybody. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we all call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can ever guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and of course, everything in between. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone. And just a reminder to those who are calling in, we're going to take calls at the top of the hour. After our break, we'll be doing short readings. Dr. Salvin and Dr. Linda and I will be taking calls. And if you want to call in after the top of the hour, the number is 310-421-4053. Now, my guest tonight is a super lady. And I am finding that doing the show and doing the interviews and reaching out and finding people who are also what I would call old school is one of the joys of doing Freedom Slips Radio. And Dr. Linda became a psychic after she survived a commercial airplane crash in 1981. She had two more near-death experiences after that, one in 1982 and another in 1984. And she is directly linked to the other side due to a white light experience and of course, the three near-death experiences. She didn't actually accept the gift for 12 years. She was afraid of it, and I can certainly understand that one. To be honest with you, I kind of thought it wasn't real, too. I wasn't frightened, but I'm not sure I really believed in it. But once she did accept it, her life changed, and she began to help people on their journey. She's one of the 4 original radio psychics who started in 1994 in Los Angeles' KBIG 104. She had her own show for 15 years, long before the internet, and she was a frequent guest of George Norrie on Coast to Coast. She's done TV shows, and she became a healer after surgery in 91 and a medium after more surgery in 96. And here's really, to me, which she's got a comosvitis that would choke a horse. She has a BA in health education, a master's in public health and epidemiology, and a PhD in metaphysics. Now you put all of that together with her experience and her education, and you have one powerful lady. So welcome to the show, Dr. Linda.
Thank you so much, Barbara. What a wonderful introduction. I'm glad to be here.
Well, you certainly... I mean, I could have probably taken the first hour just reading all the stuff that you've done. I mean, it's amazing, but I think that it's also a testimony to the fact that it's very accurate to say that some people are called to this field, and yes, no matter what, the universe, the spirit, just kind of forces you into it. It's not like it's something you sat down one day and said, oh, just for the hell of it, I'm going to become a psychic now.
Yeah, no, it's not something I was dreaming of becoming. It was never on the burner. It was never on the platform. No, it shows me.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. And I had the same experience, to tell you the truth. I thought I was faking. And it took them 7 years to convince me that, no, I was just a natural at it, which is a blessing beyond blessings. I mean, it doesn't happen that way with everybody, but I'm finding that some of the people that I am so fortunate to come in contact with have had their gifts sort of awakened at either during a time of trauma or during or car accidents, or in your
right.
case, holy mackerel,
the plane crashed, the fire truck, and then totaling a car. That was the thrust of it back in the 80s. Yeah. And nobody was talking about this stuff back then. There was nobody to turn to for help as to what was going on. I mean, I was going through all these awakenings and psychic abilities and white light experiences, and it wasn't popular like it's become. It was still, quote, in the closet. It was weird. It was weird. It's like nobody talked about that.
Well, I think my first dawning, awakening, download, whatever you want to call it,
right,
was in '66 when a UFO landed on my campus.
Oh my God.
And it was and when it took off, it zoomed right over my dorm, and listen, I was within 100 feet of it. It blanked out the whole sky. If it had had a VIN number, I could have read it. And
Where did you go to school?
Eastern Michigan University.
And I went to U of M in Ann Arbor. I went to school in Ann Arbor. For my master's, I was at U of M.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I know where Eastern is. Is it in Ypsilanti or is it next door? It's not far.
It's Ypsilanti, yeah. When were you in? You were in 70. I
was there 75 to 77.
Okay, I was there 62 to 66, and so that was during the swamp gas stuff when Hynek was coming around and saying no, they weren't UFOs, it was swamp gas, and that particular incident of mine was actually authenticated by the government as a real UFO sighting, and it changed my life, and it opened me up to we're not alone, and it was exciting, but you went through this awakening by almost being killed a number of times.
Yeah.
You must have been 4 years after grad school.
Well, I had a premonition the plane was going to crash an hour before it happened. I was on company business with my partner. We were working for an insurance company at the time, and we were up in San Jose, California, and we were from Southern California. And we were sitting in the coffee shop, and the plane that was sitting outside the window, I said, doesn't it look like it could crack there? And my partner said I was tired because he didn't see what I saw, but I saw like a fuelage or exhaust settlement on the body of the plane. And an hour and a half later, it was cracked in half when we crashed.
Wow.
So I had a premonition, which was my first big premonition of something going to happen, and slid down the ramp and I was out of my body, like 50 feet out of my body, and it lasted about 4 months, and I was told I was a walk-in. So I felt like a cyclops, and that sensation lasted for about 4 months. And again, there was nobody to talk to about the split. And that's when it all started, February 17th, 1981.
Wow. But they didn't stop there. I mean, they
no.
they kept hitting you. And it's sort of like, I have the feeling that people like you, like me, before we came on air, I was talking about people who have been in this field for 20, 30, 40, 50 years are having amazingly phenomenal health challenges. Yeah, health challenges. And I'm wondering if because the energetics are shifting, so because there's such confusion and upheaval going on and on the planet at this particular time, I wonder if we're being buffeted by it. I mean, I just can't. I know that for myself personally, I recognize it as telling me there's a change that needs to happen, and therefore I need to pay attention to altering the way that I do what I do so that it comes more in line with what Spirit has in mind for me. And a couple of my friends are having the same understanding that, okay, so what I've done so far to this point in time was fine and well, but it no longer applies to the energetic of the planet or the cosmos or the downloads that we're getting. So we have to shift and approach things in a different manner in order to teach and share the wisdom that we've got inside of us. And I would say that you're getting the same kind of message.
Yeah, there's like I was explaining to Barbara. I had some thumb reconstruction, major surgery back in September. And last week I had the pin removed and I was back in surgery. And I'm still trying to focus on that. And I got in a car accident on Friday. And I'm all shaken up with a concussion and whiplash, and I hurt. And it's like I was going to stop going to my chiropractor, and I got thrown back in his office. And it's like I can't get away from this. And I'm supposed to be there for whatever reason. And my attorney called me an eggshell because I got hit in January. I had another case of whiplash where somebody hit me in a parking lot. And this one was somebody hit me in a parking lot, only in a different angle. And it's like, okay, what's going on here? Why is it going on here? And what am I going to do about it? And it's like, you know what? I'm going to the one doctor tomorrow for x-rays, and if he wants an MRI or whatever, my MD. And then I'll go to the chiropractor for ultrasound and whatever treatment he deems necessary to help me through this period until I heal again. And, you know, I love him dearly. I love seeing him, but to go to the chiropractor twice a week isn't something on my agenda that I want to, you know, keep doing with my time. But,
well, you know,
healing, there's something weird going on. Should we go into politics or stay away? I mean, there's a lot of negativity going on, and maybe we're being tapped to become stronger to keep the light going. I don't know.
Well, you know, I kind of think that in a way, the we're getting downloads that, and let's face it, most of us that have been in this field a long time have a pretty strong ego, and it feels to me as though there's a sense here of downloads of information, but shifting our focus. And because we've been in the field for so long, it's not that we think we know it all, but we're comfortable with it. And it feels like that there's new stuff coming in, and more strands of our DNA are being awakened. And sometimes you have to get shaken up really good in order for spirit to really do the rewiring that it needs to do. And, you know, and as far as the planet goes, my God, there's upheaval all over the place. It's not just here in this country, it's all over. And it is a time of change. And I said to somebody the other night, you know, that we're living through history, and it's the birth of a new season, maybe is the best way to say it. And
well, the dawning of another age of something, and I'm not sure what, but I'll tell you one thing. When I was on the radio back in the 90s, I used to say that the first 17 years of the new millennium were going to be some of the most difficult, painful, and turbulent times that we would ever see. And that's exactly what happened. We're still in it, and it's only getting worse in many ways. And yet we have to keep looking at the glass half full to see the beauty of it while we're going through the chaos of it.
Yeah, and it is chaos. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And it's a birthing process. And, you know, for those of us that have been fortunate enough to have a child, it hurts. It's difficult. It stretches us. And that's exactly what's happening to all of us on a spiritual level. And it's the same old will not work anymore. And there are I do predictions for every month, and when it came to and I've always had fun with it. I've been doing it for the last 20 years, and this year was not fun. I had to really push myself because I kept seeing chaos and riots and upheaval and whatever, and looking forward towards next year. It continues. It's not something that's going to settle itself down, and we're not going to, you know, settle into complacency again after January. This goes on for at least another year. And what's interesting is I kept seeing turmoil, I guess is the best way to put it, continuing in this country for at least the next year, if not 2 or 3. And
well, with the election, that's what you're picking up, and all of what's going on with right.
But what's interesting is Lynn Buss,
there's so much fear and anxiety out there right now.
Oh God, yeah. And Lynn Buss, who's a numerologist, is going to be on the show next month with me, and he as well is seeing this kind of upheaval, and when he reads my overviews, he keeps saying, "What happened to Pollyanna? Where'd she go?" And I said, "Hey, she's gone."
You're getting more realistic because you're beginning to feel more grounded while you're still getting everything from above, and you know spiritually what the answer is, but it's a little thicker. The energy's thicker to deal with right now.
Gosh, yeah. And I've got Michelle Avanti coming on next month as well, and
Michelle was on my show once before. Say hi to her for me.
Yes. I will. And she's I mean, her predictions for next year are horrifying. So it's it's horrifying, but it's exciting because, in order to build new, you have to tear down. And that's what's happening. And it's just, to me, fascinating to watch. And it's kind of like, I'm glad I don't have a lot of money in the stock market, because if I did, I'd probably have to worry about losing it. And so
No, you don't. Look at the market's up higher than it's been, and it's growing, and it's going to continue with this administration. I disagree. I think it's going to be a real strong economy. You can see what's going on just this week. Just this week, it's been crazy high.
Oh, absolutely. But, I'm finding, when I read through all of your material, I mean, you don't do anything half-assed. I mean, when you do radio shows.
Sure, I do. I get very lazy during the day. If I don't have 5 clients, I don't know what to do. Go ahead.
But all of these radio shows that you do, I mean,
yeah.
it was amazing. Overkill. Absolute overkill.
Oh, I don't even list all the guest shows I've been on through the years, like yours. I don't even keep track anymore. I show up, I help, I discuss, I read, I let people know how they can contact me. I bring in spiritual information that I hope impacts somebody or wakes them up, because a lot of people think they're spiritual and they're not. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm psychic too," and it's like, no, you're not. Most people are intuitive, but they're not psychic. They don't understand it. No, I think I've got it. It's like, yeah.
No, that's a really good point. And
most people are intuitive, but not psychic. Yeah,
there is a difference. And the other thing that is absolutely really important at this particular point in time, there are tons and tons of people going around there saying, well, I'm a psychic and I'm a light worker and I'm a this and I'm a that. And when you ask them, when you say, that's fabulous, what does it mean?
They can't answer.
No. And
because they're the charlatans giving people like you and me the bad rap. And I'm a part of the American Federation of Certified Psychics and Mediums. And if you want to become a part of it, I would be more than happy to test you, because I'm the chief examiner of metaphysics for the organization. And they just had their 4th annual international voting for the United States and Canada. I mean, the United States and the world, for different, there were 54 categories, and I came in number 5 top psychic in the United States. Number 1 is life coach in the United States and around the world. I came in number 2 as a witch because of my candle line. I came in number 10 out of 500 light workers. So I don't know who the people are that vote, and I didn't promote it this year because I was sick, and I still came in on top. So people want to know what a real light worker is. They can find out through me or through you, or really understand about giving up self in order to help another human being and to really do the work of God. It's not.
And I think what's fascinating is that while people will read the books and will take workshops, they don't realize that they don't become a light worker until they are walking their talk.
Right.
And
that's most of it. But they don't understand how to embrace that. Most of them don't know how to embrace it. They think it sounds good. And the new generation coming up, the kids in their 20s and 30s, they think they've got it. And people come to me and ask me to help them become psychic. One person wrote me this adamant email full of anger. He's a regular client. And he's frustrated because no matter what he does, he can't become psychic. And I wrote back, I said, well, you're not supposed to be psychic. You don't adopt it. It doesn't happen. People think you can learn to be psychic because of all those classes out there that help you with your psychic powers. You can't. It's just like some of the biggest mediums out there charge $2,000 to $3,000 for seminars to teach you how to be a trance medium. Either you got it or you don't.
Oh, yeah.
If everybody were supposed to be a medium, this whole planet would levitate.
I met a woman once who came up to me. She was very reverent. She'd heard of me because I've been around forever. And she said, I'm a shaman. And I said, really? And she said, yes, I'm a shaman. And I said, okay, what does that mean? She said, well, I have a certificate. And I just finished a weekend workshop, and I looked at her and I said, well, number one,
I'm sorry.
shamans are recognized, they aren't labeled. And number two, if you say you're a shaman, chances are you're not. And I said I would not throw that around, especially because there just might be a shaman there that might really be offended. And she just looked at me and she said, what? And I said, was it like $2,000, $2,500 you paid for this? She said, yeah. I said, well, I'm sure you learned a lot, but shamans just are.
They're natural born healers. They're natural born wise people. I have a book on shamanism, and with all the indoctrination, actually my therapist told me to read it because he said, Linda, you're a shaman, because I heal people. And I don't know where the energy comes from. But we went back to the chapter about initiation, and I believe, just like with the plane crash, the fire truck accident, and the totaling of the car, those were initiations. But back in the 80s, when I was going through it and I had no clue what I was doing or what it meant, I didn't understand that it was a form of initiation. Down the road now I can look at it, absolutely.
Well, I think the main thing about, for me, for everyone to understand, is that it's not something you're taught. It's something that you allow to evolve from within yourself. And everybody will have a different gift, so that it's not, you can't follow in someone else's footsteps because that's their pathway. So it's, I teach a class in the foundations of spiritual development, and then I tell everybody here's the information. Now understand it, make it a part of yourself, and live it, and see where spirit takes you.
Right.
But I can't give you a certificate because that's ridiculous.
No, because most people think that it's simple to just pay your fee and get your degree, and it doesn't work that way. It's a feeling. They may have a passion and an interest, which I understand, but to actually do the work or really beat the drum and use the feathers and use the incense and use all the tools that a shaman would use, most people don't know all that. They don't have all the tools that it takes. They think that they can do Reiki. Don't get me started on Reiki, but I have a different opinion about Reiki than the average person. And, everybody thinks they're healers. Everybody's fixing everybody. Well, if we were all so fixed, why are we still so messed up? But the true real healers, and I just did a healing on a naturopathic doctor in Germany 2 weeks ago because his heart, he wasn't feeling right about love and some other issues in his life. And he came to me for the healing, and it takes about 7 days to go through the process. And he was in touch with me for the first 4 days. I have to write him and find out how he's doing. But most people don't understand what natural healing can be. Like, I was given a gift in 1991 using color, words, and breathing. And I took a schizophrenic that had 26 personalities, put her back into one. Her mother flew in from out of town to thank me. There's a big difference in saying, hi, I'm a shaman. It's like heal somebody, really transform their life, and see what happens.
Well, and isn't it true also that you can do that kind of healing, but unless the person changes, embraces it, and shifts their perspective, that it doesn't hold.
Well, the way I do, I don't think that that's true with the work that I do. I think it's always held. I had one guy who was paralyzed from being in a truck accident. He had 3 healings. This couple of years ago, he had 3 healings because he said that it was the best money he ever spent, that he was finally comfortable in his body, so he could sit in his chair and not be uncomfortable. So it's not about, you got to be open. Coming, if there is resistance, I can feel it, and I work with that before I get into what goes on in our soul.
Well, I think it's true magic, and it's very exciting. And so on top of all of the radio shows that you've done and everything else that you've done, you also have, which fascinates me, a line of candles.
I do. Barbara, what I have, it started in 1999, and it's Candle Magic. And I was trained in Candle Magic by a Santeria priest back in 1999, and I'll tell you the story of how it happened. There was a woman in LA who did candles, and I went to her, and her candles didn't work. And I went to this store in LA to try some things, and it didn't work. Then I was told about this guy named Michael, and I was working on a boyfriend at the time, trying to get him to open up and communicate. So, which is hard to do with a Scorpio. So I went and met Michael. Michael gave me a set of candles, and he asked what I did. I said I was a talk show host doing spiritual work, psychic work. He said, let this happen, then come back and I'll teach you candle magic. And I said, why would you teach me candle magic? And he said, because you'll buy from me and you'll help people. Well, I couldn't believe that this one candle that I did on my boyfriend at the time opened him up to the point where I wanted him to shut up.
Okay, so for those who don't understand what the candle magic is,
because they're into that.
Okay.
Candle magic. I took away wicks of wisdom. I took away pagan Wicca and Santeria, Kabbalah. I took away all the different religions, and I made it mainstream from what I learned. And candle magic is another way to attune to your spiritual life. I have candles that bring in money, remove negativity, improve your health, open up doors for your love life, whether you're in a relationship or you want to attract somebody new. I have legal candles for lawsuits. I have candles for getting out of procrastination so you become productive. And for everything else, there's formulas of oil. There's formulas of essential oil. There's powders. There's herbs. And there's petition, there's parchment paper. And the way that wicks of wisdom work, like a prescription for your soul, is that you apply all these elements that I supply you in the order that you're instructed. And there's a petition of certain words that goes in the flame. And little by little, after 3 to 7 days, the first candle goes out and the second candle's lit. You do it 3 times. Mm-hmm. And things start to evolve, things start to happen. It's magic. It's like giving God your prayer, which is God is light, so light is the flame of the candle. It's dressing with the essential oils and the herbs and the powders. The candle itself is the vessel to hold it all, and the petition is the wish. It's kind of like going back to the Maccabean War before the Jewish temple was destroyed, and people had idols for God, their gods. And in order to receive something from God, they would make an offering. So they would give gold and silver jewelry, coins, food, or whatever. Much like you see in a Buddhist environment or Asian environment where they're offering apples, coins, and incense to the Buddha in a cleaners or a Chinese restaurant. So you're making an offering in exchange for receiving the gift. So we give the offering of gold and silver powder, which represents the gold and silver, to give to the universe. And in turn, I've seen people heal. I've seen people get married. I've seen people keep their stocks up. Speaking of stocks, with the stock market, I've seen real estate brokers stay on top of their game. I've seen business quadruple. The biggest skeptic on the planet can burn these candles and things will happen. You don't have to believe. You don't have to understand. You just have to follow the directions and things will start. I've got one girl that buys once a month because she gambles all the time and she wins. I have another one that in Texas, a gal had fibroid tumors. She'd been bleeding and she didn't want to go to the doctor for a hysterectomy. And she did the health candles and the bleeding stopped. So everybody's different. It's powerful stuff what I've got here. It's real spirits in the oil. It's not something you can buy at the market.
No, I would think not. And certainly it has to do a great deal with your intent in creating all of this too.
The energy is there. Yeah, the energy is there.
It has to be. And they are now. Your website is www.lindasalvin.com,
Uh-huh. And it's
and
all
there
there, the readings, the candles, my radio shows, everything's there.
a busy lady. But have you written books? Because it feels like there should be books here.
I know I've had 4 people tell me they're going to help me with my book, and they all fall apart. And I personally haven't done the book myself. I've been trying to write the book for 30 years since the plane crash, and the story keeps changing. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't know. The candles, by the way, are also on YouTube at Wicks of Wisdom. And Kris Jenner, the Kardashians' mother, was the spokesperson for my infomercial when we put the candles on television 10 years ago. So the infomercial is on YouTube if people want to see how it works and listen to testimony of people that were clients of mine at the time.
Well, it's very exciting because it is magic. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Oh, it's white magic, yeah.
And if you know it today, especially, people are awakening more and more and more to the power they have within, the other gifts and talents that they can reach to within themselves and utilize, and what else is out there that can be of great benefit to them in
well,
their
the candles would really help them achieve more, because that's why I created Wicks of Wisdom, because I knew people wanted more than just answers in a reading. They wanted more. So I get them involved with their own spiritual growth by putting the herbs and oils and everything together. They become their own alchemist, and they become a part of the process.
You know, it's amazing to me because, like you said before, when you started in the 80s, and when I started in the 60s, I could have lost my job if they knew that I was involved in this sort of stuff. I mean, literally, there was in the contract that I signed. I taught school for 25 years, and in the contract that I signed, one of the things was that there was a morality clause. There was we were not allowed to. We had to wear high heels and dresses or suits. We couldn't wear even pantsuits at that time.
Right.
And this was Michigan, and you had to do recess duty in heels and coats.
Oh my God! Even in the snow?
Yeah, Madison Heights and Troy, Michigan. Yes. And let me tell you, so then you fast forward to, 20, 30 years later, and I was doing readings on my lunch hour. So, we've come a long way. And the consciousness of humanity, the masses, whomever, have evolved to a great degree too over the last half a century. And it's just amazing to watch people being more and more open to this field than ever before.
Right. It was the spiritual explosion at the end of the 20th century, because I used to say that the 90s was the most spiritual decade of the millennium, and it opened everything up. And now in the last 16 years, it's just become more and more acceptable. More and more people are searching for answers, looking for something to hold on to, believe in. And it's not always just about the money, because a lot of people have their wealth and then they realize they're still lacking, so they're searching for the spiritual fulfillment.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding, especially with the spiritual development. I wanted to do a spiritual development circle online, and I put it up on a radio show on Blog Talk, and I had almost 70 people sign up all around the world, and I thought how fabulous this is going to be, because over half of them were practitioners, and I thought, I mean, I'm going to grow from this because everybody's going to share, and it's going to be a wonderful. I mean, I was just so excited. It was unbelievable. And I found that nobody knew anything.
They wanted you to teach them. That's why they came to you. They didn't want to share and engage. They just wanted to hear and listen and grow.
I did everything short of blackmailing people to call in to talk. I mean, it was, and then I finally realized that, okay, this is not a discussion group. This is a lecture series. And so I lectured. But you get to the point where people are aware of what's out there, but they're not aware that all of the answers are inside of themselves.
And most people, Barbara, as you know, don't want to look within. They want to blame somebody else for their problems. They want to blame the milkman. They want to blame the postal server. They want to blame their spouse. They don't want to look at themselves and take responsibility for what they feel and know.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, and when people say, oh, I only attract losers, well, that's because you think that's what you deserve. So let's work on you, and when you feel you deserve better, you'll attract better. And they look at you like, you mean I have to do the work? And yeah, that's the idea. but it is I am finding it more and more and more exciting, because more and more seems to be coming to the surface and being available to us. And we're finding in films and books that they're being seeded with hints of the greater expansion of the consciousness that is there, so that when something happens, people say, well, of course, yeah, I read that in a book. But it's really quite profound, the stuff that's coming out these days. It's a little unhinging, I think, from time to time.
The aliens that they're among us, and the UFOs are real, and psychic ability is real, and past lives are real. Everything's real. It's just that a lot of people don't believe it, and like the scientific world has to prove it. I come from the scientific world, and then I became a psychic. So that's why I went and got the PhD in metaphysics from the American Institute of Holistic Theology, so I could qualify and quantify the woo-woo with the scientific background I've got, because there's a lot of woo-woo.
Oh, God, yes.
It's real. It's real, whether it's astrology, numerology, psychometry, healing, channeling. There's so many different aspects of the world.
I mean, if those who are out there, if you want to really have your mind blown, go to Wikipedia and look at different forms of prognostication. There are probably 50 to 60 pages of all of these different ways that you can use to connect yourself to your higher consciousness and get information from spirit. I mean, from the entrails of goats to clouds to words in anger to how many sneezes people. I mean, it's extreme. But the cool thing is that everybody has their own tool. They brought them into this lifetime.
But they don't know that.
Well, that's what I try to tell them.
The millennials have a more acute awareness, I think, that they're pretty on top of it as far as their intuition and their creativity and maybe their spiritual aspects, but nobody's perfected any of it. And I think that whole generation's a lot more adept to spiritual practice. More of it come about.
I think one of the things that I have difficulty with is convincing people that this doesn't conflict with religion. Have a religion, but
oh gosh, no.
Spirituality is next to or along with.
Religion is man-made, and spirituality just is.
Yeah, and it doesn't conflict, and I mean, the number of priests and nuns that I read is phenomenal. I mean, they're really cool. But when you get right down to it, when you look at what's going on today, because of after the election, we don't have to get into the politics of it, but there is such.
Well, there's fear of internment camps, concentration camps. Women's rights, women's health, abortion, health care, gender identification, all of the immigration, everything we've worked so hard to achieve we're at risk of having it taken away and limited, and we're going to be in a controlled state, which is really pathetic.
Well, we don't know that yet. So that it's sort of like this country is going through another revolution. I mean, I see direct correlation between the 1776 stuff and today, and that there is upheaval here. And I told everybody before the election, it doesn't matter who wins, there's going to be a revolution. There are going to
Right.
be people who are dissatisfied. There are going to be protests. I did not picture what's going on today, to tell you the truth. I didn't think it would be this extreme, but go figure. It's we're at a birth of a new age, and that is going to take upheaval. It's going to take a lot of stuff happening, and that we're able to live through it and see change happening. And whatever the destiny of humanity in the United States is, obviously we're following along with it, even though we have power to some degree to let our will be known, but it feels to me as though we are flowing along a pathway, and apparently it's the way it's supposed to be. I don't think that even
Well,
as
it is what it is. It can't be anything other than what it is. So, I mean, of course it's supposed to be. Just like me getting into another accident. Here I go again. Here I go again. Why? The guy T-boned me. I was just trying to get out of the McDonald's parking lot.
Well, maybe you just shouldn't eat McDonald's anymore.
Well, yeah, maybe, but it's down the street from where I live, and I get my coffee, and I was just going home like I always do, and he just backed into me, didn't see me. So,
But don't you find that when big things like this happen, that there's a shift going on inside of you that you're reminded
there's
of
been a
some?
shift. There's been a shift going on since I had the surgery September 28th, and I'm walking through it because I'm not on the other side of it yet. But there was nerve exposure for most of October, and the pain, I was jumping out of my skin. I'd never felt anything like that in my life, and I was on antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, and steroids, and I was going nuts. So on the other side of it, my psychic ability it's always still there, but I'm in a calmer place than I was, where there's no big deal. When anybody has surgery, Barbara, and you go under anesthesia, it's the closest thing to death known to man, because they put you out so deep that you can't feel the pain when they're cutting you open and operating, and then how they bring you back. And sometimes the residue will take weeks to leave your body. It takes time, but usually there's a spiritual shift after a surgical procedure. Not everybody's aware of that. I'm not quite on the other side. I'm going to do some resting over this weekend and let my body detox from whatever it needs to detox from. And as far as I don't eat bread, or I don't eat flour or sugar. So when I'm at McDonald's, I get everything wrapped up in lettuce. I have just protein and apples, and it's one thing my body can tolerate. But the reason behind it, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, to have to go back into the doctor and going tomorrow, I'll see in about a month. I'll be able to tell you why. When you're in the storm, you can't see outside the storm, and you got to get through some of the storm in order to identify the purpose. So once end of the month, I'll tell you probably what I think the purpose is.
Yeah, I am finding that it's very interesting. My website, I've always said, was a teaching website, and then somebody brought it to my attention that I had, you can get a reading here on it, which made it a retail website. So I took all that stuff off of it because it was like, nope, I've called it a teaching website, and I am a teacher by trade. And therefore, I took all of that off of it, and things seemed to settle down. I think that that we are given subtle hints as we go along, and sometimes we are so dedicated to doing what we're doing because we feel so strongly about it that we miss those subtle hints. At least I do, and it takes me slamming into a brick wall. I call
don't say that.
No, I call that my 2x4 moment, because usually it takes. A year ago, I was doing psychic fairs with somebody that I'd known for 35 years, and I've been doing them for almost that long. And I was at the point where I was saying, I don't really want to do this anymore. It doesn't feel right. And because of a friendship, I just couldn't pull myself out. And this was 56 fairs a year. And,
oh my goodness.
And I was at a fair a year ago to right about now. And I was talking to the man that was doing the bookings, and I turned to go back to my table. I tripped over something. I did a 180 in the air. I landed on both my knees on a concrete floor.
Ouch.
Now I'm 72. So, you would expect I would have shattered. I stuck the landing. But it was like nothing was broken, but it was like, for God's sakes, you've been saying you don't want to do it. You don't feel right about it.
Here, we're going to get you out.
Here's the reason. Stop it. You're not doing it anymore. And that was it. And like I said, it was a 2x4 moment. If I had just gone with my gut, like I tell everybody to do, I always say, trust your gut unless you've had Mexican food. And it was like, why wasn't I practicing what I was preaching? I mean, come on. It's that simple. So it is. It is
because we're not perfect.
I know, that's why we're here. I got that. Do you feel that when you are reading other people, you are also reading yourself?
Absolutely. Sometimes it's a mirror. Sometimes
Yeah.
the questions come in and it's really what I need to hear for myself, which is appropriate for the person at the time with the question that they're asking. And then other times there's such a detachment that it's like night and day. So there's times that I can hear myself talking, thinking, oh, I can apply this to him. I can apply this to that. I can apply this to work. Yeah, there's times. And then there's other times it's like, it's not me, it's them, totally them. It's dependent. But sometimes there's mirrors, yeah.
Yeah, I have found that's why I love doing the free readings. I mean, it is such an adventure for me, because it will pull from me stuff sometimes that I didn't know was there, and it often will open doors to new places that I can investigate and learn from. So it's all good, and it's my way of giving back. And so that's why, at the time, I should give out that number again. We will, after the commercial at the top of the hour, we will be taking calls. And if anybody out there is interested in getting a short reading from both of us, double team here. Can't get better than that. It's 310-421-4053. And after the top of the hour, call in. We will be taking a short break in about 10 minutes. But I am finding that it feels like something is going to happen right around the first of the year. I get that internal, oh, wait till you see this feeling. So it's kind of like, it doesn't feel bad. It doesn't feel bad. It feels as though there are going to be more layers that are taken away from us. I mean, veils are going to be removed to a certain degree. And people who are in the spiritual field, absolutely, but even the masses are going to have clearer vision as to what's going on in their lives. And I can't wait to see it. It just feels to me as though, it's going to be chaotic because, of course, when people recognize that they haven't been given all of the truth, that there will be upset. But I don't feel that it's going to be, overturning the government or anything. It can't. We just redid the entire Capitol building. So,
Yeah, and Trump wants to redo it again.
Well, I don't think he's going to put a Trump sign across it, but um, you never know.
He might be out of the house for 18 months. We don't know yet. He
Um,
wants to live in New York half the time anyway.
yeah, it's funny. I mean, I understand that he had nowhere else to go. There were no other challenges out there for him. So this was the big one. But I don't think you look at it and you think, holy mackerel, he has no privacy. And the change that it does to a person, it ages just about everybody. And the fact that you lose yourself, you really you become a figurehead and with not as much power as you thought you were going to get. So it does look as though it might not be all of the stuff that he really thought it was going to be.
Oh, it's going to be nothing he's prepared for because he's not a politician. He doesn't have a background in history and politics and government. He has a background in business and construction. So he's thinking that the country's going to be treated like a business and he's going to pull it together. But I don't want to get into some of my personal views and what I'm fearful of. I don't think it's appropriate.
Yes, I know that feeling. But it is interesting to see that other nations, other countries, are going through a sort of similar.
The whole world is shifting. The whole world is shifting.
Yeah.
The whole world is shifting.
And it's what really gets to me is that the earth is shifting too. And I'm seeing, because I've been doing the overview for next year, and I'm seeing a lot more earthquakes and tsunamis and volcanoes.
You just had one in Japan today.
Another one, yeah. And Italy isn't done yet either, I don't believe. And I keep seeing. Now, I have to admit to you, just between the two of us, I have seen the new Madrid line going off again. And the last time that went off was 1813 or 18.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's a fault line that goes kind of up along the Mississippi. It went off in 1814, 1813. It was in December, January, that time frame. And it was magnitude 9 on the Richter scale. The Mississippi River ran backwards. It rang bells in Philadelphia and Boston. So and the population was not anywhere near what it is today. The school systems that are along that line have all been issued a survival pack for each child that has 3 days water, 3 days food in it. So the government is there are 4 major fault lines in the United States, major fault lines. You have the San Andreas, there's one
which is where I live.
One in the kind of semi-middle of the country, the New Madrid line, which is more towards the east, and it's to the left of the Mississippi River. It goes through it kind of skirts Tennessee. It's in that area, and it goes north-south. And then there's one right up the Hudson River that's huge. And of course, that's where there's a nuclear power plant. And those 4 fault lines are beginning to rumble. But the New Madrid line is definitely, and because they're doing all of the fracking in that area, it is destabilizing the plates to a certain extent. So I really believe it's going to go. And my son and daughter-in-law and 2 grandchildren live in Nashville, and they'll feel it for sure if it goes. And a magnitude 9, can you imagine what that is like?
No, I can't. I know the quake out here in '94 was a 6.2, but it was really close to a 9. And the people at JPL, I had a couple of clients at the time whose husbands worked there, and they were told to lower the Richter rating because tax time was coming. And if it was over a certain Richter scale point, that we wouldn't have to pay taxes. And even though we know it was that large of a magnitude by law, they changed it and they scammed everybody and made everybody believe it was less than what it was. I remember that in 94. I was out of my apartment for about 3 weeks.
Yeah, my son was he went to school at USC.
Oh, okay, downtown.
Yeah, and they sat on the roof of the fraternity house and watched the city burn.
Yeah, it was pretty intense with what happened. It looked like a war zone after the earthquake.
Yeah, no, and there was one prior to that in San Francisco too that was really
that was 88, I think. 88,
yeah.
89, something like that.
So I do feel strongly that and the middle of the country is experiencing a lot more.
Well, Oklahoma's been having a lot of earthquakes. And
yeah,
that's unusual. That's unusual.
A lot of fracking going on there. And I don't know enough about all of it to be able to be intelligent, but I do feel that the fracking has led to the problems. But
oh, absolutely, it's it's causing vibration within the earth, and upsetting everything.
But the cool thing is that this planet will survive us. It's already wiped itself clean a couple of times and started over again from scratch.
Just like us.
Yeah, we started as a single cell and a number of times probably, and I don't think the planet cares. It'll start again. But okay, we'll be back in 5, and just to tell those that if you'd like to call in for a short reading from us, the call-in number is 310-421-4053. And we are open to taking calls. And in lieu of waiting rather than sitting here with bated breath, I wanna go into some of the other stuff that you've done, because you have had an amazing career. And it's like I'm finding that the people in this field who are really out there and people are drawn to are people that have feet of clay, and they've done a lot of regular normal people stuff, and then come into this field with a rich background of lots of material and lots being able to say to people, I know what you're talking about, I understand what you're feeling, and more and more and more I am finding people who are highly educated and still taking part in this field, which some people think is crazy, but it's not.
Yeah, it's the woo-woo. That's why I said it's the woo-woo. It is great. It's a philosophy. It's metaphysics is a combination of psychology and religion. And people don't know that you put the two together and you have a way of analyzing and dissecting the human being on a mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional level. You've got God in the whole picture as to why things are happening on a spiritual level. And I've got a couple stories here. Like maybe this will help inspire somebody. Back in 2009, my mom had lung cancer, and I had gone to a radio symposium for a couple of days back in March of 2009, and that following Sunday, I went to see my mom, and I hung out with my mom and dad for a little while, came home, and my neighbor knocked on the door and said, Linda, there's a bird on the wall, and it's for you. I said, what do you mean there's a bird on the wall? So we went over, and there was a lovebird perched on the wall of the house. So we took the children's pails, captured this lovely bird, went over to the bird store, and it was confirmed that it was a Fisher lovebird. It was a beautiful bird of green and red and peach and yellow and indigo. So John, my neighbor, named it Rainbow. Well, that was on Sunday. Monday, the wife, Hillary, called and asked if I wanted the bird because it was too squawky and she didn't want it. I said, yes, I can't stop thinking about that bird. So I inherited Rainbow. Wednesday, I go to see my mom. My dad's upstairs, and I said, Mom, I got a new bird. She goes, what's its name? I said, Rainbow. She said, Rainbow? I said, yeah, why? She goes, well, that's the code name for the alarm system on the house. And she died the next day. So this bird was brought to me in preparation for my mother's passing, and the bird, Rainbow, just died 2 weeks ago.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah, 7 years and 7 months later, I lost this bird, but it was this whole chapter of time that this bird was significant with regards to my mom and her passing, and this bird was like a guardian angel for me. I have his girlfriend still here, and I was just thinking it's time to get her another bird because we had to go through a little mourning period there. It's hard. But
absolutely.
Things like that, that's metaphysics. Is it odd or is it God? Why did that happen? Why would a bird come in? Why would it be rainbow? Last thing my mother said to me, rainbow, and she died.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like that's the metaphysics of how life is. Just like the poem I always read on my show called God, Are You Real? And it says, God, are you real? The child whispered, God, speak to me. And a meadowlark sang, but the child did not hear. So the child said, God, show me that you're real, whereupon and the thunder rolled across the sky, but the child did not listen. So the child said, show me a miracle, and a child was born, but the child did not know. So the child said, touch me, God, show me you're real, whereupon God reached down to touch the child, but the child brushed the butterfly away and walked away unknowingly. There's one more part in there that I have forgotten, but it's basically like this kid is asking about proof. There's a God. Well, there was a meadowlark that sang, the stars are shining in the sky, a baby was born, the thunder's rolling, and a butterfly was brought to touch him on the arm. What more proof do we need? We're always out there trying to find what God is. It just is. It's everything around us, from the stars to the sand. But we complicate it all. But spirituality is just becoming a part of everything, whether it's the trees, if it's the wind, the rain, people, communication. With all the negativity and craziness out there, we got to get back to what the spirit wants. And that's what you and I try to teach people.
Yeah, it's an amazing adventure. I have to tell you that being in this field is the most energizing thing I have ever done in my entire life. And it gives you a vitality, although, you know, when you're being bashed around by spirit, it doesn't feel like it. But for the most part, it is exciting and absolutely wonderful. Okay, we've got a call here, 816. Hi, you're on the air. Can I have your name, please?
It's Mark.
Hi, Mark. We're gonna the way we're working this tonight is Dr. Linda needs your name. Do you need his full name?
No, just the first name and city and state and birthday.
Birthday 2/11/59. What was the other thing?
City and state where you're calling from?
Lee Summit, Missouri.
Okay. What's your question?
I put some feelers out to move down to the southern part of the state, near Branson, and I'm just wondering if you see anything like that in my future.
I think around April. It looks like March, April. I don't see it now. I see it more towards the springtime, that it will happen for you. And by that time, you'll have the finances and you'll get the right place to move into, and the doors open for you. Your social life changes and your career changes. Everything opens up. It's almost like a needed move. It's going to reinvent you, just like we've been talking on the air all night.
Well, that sounds exciting. That's a good time frame, too. That's what I was kind of hoping for.
All right, well, that's what I see. What do you get, Barbara?
Oh, it feels to me as though you have to put your house in order first. I know you've set feelers out, but it doesn't feel like you've tied up all your loose ends yet, so that it will take. So I got the March, April time frame. April feels as though there's an inner restlessness of frustration that you can't make things happen as fast as you'd like them to move, and yet when I look into the May time frame, you're crazy. So it does feel as though that's the time frame where I do see a move taking place. And even though I've just warned you that you need to, tie loose ends up, I don't feel you're going to. but make me a liar, please. And and it does feel as though once you've gotten yourself moved, it feels that where you are now geographically, it doesn't feel like that geographical place is nurturing your spirit, that you feel almost claustrophobic or like you're sort of being smothered is what I'm getting. And once you do make a move, there's a greater sense of taking a deep breath, of allowing yourself to sort of grow and move into a new, and I agree with Dr. Linda, there's a whole new change here, and it feels like you're bringing in the spiritual, the intuitive, the understanding of you have a greater power in this life and a greater power to control your life. And it feels as though you're taking back your personal power from people that you have given it away to. Does that help?
Absolutely. When you say loose ends, I'm not sure what that means, really.
Loose ends are projects that you started and you haven't finished. It's people that you have to resolve relationships with. That it feels like you've let some people drift, and it feels as though it's important that you never slam a door, because if you slam a door, you're going to have to open it, and then you'll feel stupid. But it feels like you need to sort of resolve some of things that have been left hanging with people. It feels it's relationship oriented.
Okay, that kind of makes sense a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you
Good
for
luck.
calling.
If there's anything else I can do, let me know.
Okay, yeah, I bookmarked your site already.
Thank you. You're going to have a
Okay.
good time when you move.
Yeah, it sounds like May would be about right. And
April, May. That's what I get. You'll see. It'll happen. It'll happen quickly. It'll happen quickly, Mark.
Yeah, so don't be afraid of it and kind of look forward to it.
No, embrace it. Embrace it. Something's pulling you there, and then once you're there, you'll know why. You're being guided. You're, of all places on the planet, that's where they're guiding you.
Excellent.
Probably for your love life and probably for your finances.
Well, there's not much love life right now.
There will be.
Well, that sounds kind of exciting and scary.
Well, it feels like there is a relationship that you haven't worked everything out with, that you haven't let go of totally. And once you let go of it, it's sort of that I tell people that Mr. Right can't sit down in the chair if Mr. Wrong is sitting in it. And you have things that you haven't totally resolved from your last relationship. That's one of the loose ends.
Yeah, that could be true, but I'm not sure how to fix those.
Well, give yourself time, and just give yourself time to heal too.
Okay.
But it was pretty. It looks pretty raw here. So, but it does feel like it's going to be a good move for you.
Oh, great! Yeah. Yeah, I've kind of worked in the east and the west side of the state, so going south might be interesting.
It feels that that's an area of the country that you have past lives in, so that you'll feel more at home.
Really? That's interesting. Do you see any past lives at all? I mean, anything come to mind right off?
Civil War.
Yeah.
I think you were a soldier in the Civil War, which is probably why you're in that part of the country. And if you were to go up to Pennsylvania or whatever, you might feel more of an affinity toward the war zone. And I think some of the things you've done in your life have indicate, not that you've been in the service, but that you have a service orientation. But I just get past life soldier.
Yeah, I'll take it even further. You were in charge of the money that was paid out to the soldiers, and you were killed while you were delivering that money, and before you died, you hid and buried it, And man, if I were you, once I get down there, I'd get myself a metal detector and see where you're drawn to, because it seems to me that money hasn't been found yet, and it was gold and silver coin.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm always real attracted to silver.
Okay.
For some reason, I always wonder what that was about. But yeah, a
Yeah,
metal detector.
Yeah, don't get a really really expensive one, but get one that'll play with it, because there's an element of a treasure hunter here for you. Don't get obsessed by it. You will, but try not to. And pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to the to those signals that spirit gives you, because it does feel as though I see it feels like it's you buried it by what is now a big tree, and there either was or is a stream or water running by it.
I've always been attracted to water. That's for sure.
Pay attention.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, yeah, I'll look forward towards those dates. Yeah, I'm about ready for a change. I've been where I'm at long enough, I think.
You're right. Well, thanks for calling.
All right. Thank you for taking the call.
No Bye.
Problem. Bye-bye now.
I just love doing past lives. Past lives are something that I don't know why, but the stories just come so fast, and they are so.
We've all had hundreds of them, and people don't realize that we've had hundreds. The soul comes back time and time again. Sometimes we're here for 2 days, sometimes we're here for 80 years, but we come back time and time again. And people can have past life regression therapy and take the time to learn who they were in the past life as to why they are now. We've all been men, we've all been women. Just like with transgender, I believe that when the soul enters, it could be a female soul in a male body, or a male soul in a female body. And I think that's why a lot of people have the gender conflict until they figure it out. I think it's all spiritual. I don't think it's anything genetic or anything like that. I think it's all spirit with lessons to learn.
Oh, I would absolutely totally agree with you on that. And it's past lives are not just random little hopscotch things.
No.
They are definitely sort of I don't know, pit stops, bathroom breaks along the stream of life. And
when I was 4 or 5 years old, I remember standing outside in the backyard with my dad, and he was showing me constellations, and I looked up. I said, "Oh, here I am again. I recognize the sky." I recognize the sky.
Now that's cool. So, I have recently been finding that well, yeah, it's identifying past lives that were on the earth plane is something that is a lot of fun. But have you ever experienced, or have you ever worked with people's past lives in other dimensions?
No.
It's really cool. And of course, the spirit will take on the form that is indigenous to whatever environment it's manifesting in, and I've had a couple where I was pulled immediately to crop circles, as though crop circles were.
Oh, I love crop circles.
Oh yeah, they are so magical. I believe they're portals, and that interdimensional craft, people, whatever, I don't know what you want to call them, but it's an interdimensional shift in those, and they become portals to other places, and what's left behind, are the crop circles, but they're beautiful and they're phenomenal. Have you ever been in one?
No, I haven't. No.
They are so cool. First of all, there are no bugs, which of course I love. And there's usually a higher smell of ozone than normally you would find. Like after a thunder and lightning storm, that smell of ozone.
Right.
And it's almost, cell phones and watches don't work well there. And it's an amazing place, because it feels like everything is peaceful, everything is calm. It's you're in a neutral place where you don't have all of the outside stuff being thrown at you. So it's a very peaceful place. And I was really fortunate. I haven't been to England, but there was one in Virginia, and I was working down there at a bookstore, and it was like, hey, there's a crop circle. Let's go check it out. And it was amazing. And the only other place that I have experienced that same feeling of tranquility and that peacefulness, and everything is safe and there's no craziness in the world, and it's just you want to stay there forever, is in the stone chambers that are scattered all over the Northeast here.
Wow,
and
that sounds fascinating.
And they are my not ex-husband. Well, he's dead, so I guess I'm still married to him. My last husband, and I did a documentary on them, and they have the same peacefulness to them, even though nobody knows who made them or where they came from. It's not the Indians. It wasn't the colonials. There used to be about 800 around here. Now there are only about 200. But they have a feeling of timelessness, and they're done of corbelled construction. There's no mortar or anything, and the stones that make them up are so heavy that it would have been impossible to construct.
Well, like Stonehenge.
Yes, very much like Stonehenge. And these stone chambers, though, are they're not that big, but they're definitely they're, I don't know, 10 by 12 feet, maybe 5.5 feet high, and they have no doorways, they have no windows, they have no opening in the ceiling. People used to say they were used for storage of food, but food would rot in them, and there was no door. And they're connected to all the stone walls that are all throughout the Northeast here. And in 1832, they did an archaeological, the Department of Agriculture did a survey, and they found that there were over 500,000 miles of stone walls. That's enough to go to the moon and back. And they don't know who made them.
Aliens.
Could be. I've often wondered, so many of them have been destroyed, but I've often wondered if we could have ever gotten a map of the walls and the chambers. It might have given us some idea as to who created them, because there are no artifacts surrounding any of them in anywhere around them, and it's kind of it's an amazing mystery. And we worked really hard to try to preserve them and draw people's notice to them, but it may just well be a culture, a people, a society that will never get acknowledged because we're not paying attention, which is sad.
Everybody's too wrapped up in themselves. Everybody's very self-oriented, selfish, self-centered, and just out for the struggle or survival right now. People aren't paying attention to a lot of things around, which is what I was explaining earlier about metaphysics, to see the stars and see the trees and see the rain and get out of yourself and understand how the universe works.
That's true. And when you look at certainly before the Spaniards hit this there's a book out there called 1491, and it talks about what the United States, what North America was like before we started to get the influx of Europeans. And there were massive cultures here. There were, I think it's the Iroquois, their nation went from the Ohio, New York area all the way down to Mexico. They were powerful nation, and they had amazing cities. And what blows me away is that when the Puritans arrived here, they looked upon the native folk as heathen, and yet their spirituality was far and above what the Puritans had. And to think that they came in here with, and these are my relatives I'm talking about, and tried to convert everybody to Christianity, which limited the spirituality. I mean, the native people here, they were in tune with nature, and they were in tune with the environment. And the colonials came, and they just, wrecked the hell out of the place. But they, it's kind of like the arrogance of coming and not learning about the people that were there, and trying to learn from it, and to judge.
Yeah, everybody stays pretty much to themselves. A lot of people don't want to learn about the next. That's why there's so much hatred and racism again right now. It's rising. Anti-Semitism is higher now than it's been since the 1930s, and I'm Jewish. It's frightening.
Well, and it's still happening. Look what happened after 9/11. We went and we bombed a country back into the Stone Age that was already there. I mean, and I think there's some. I wish I had the memory that my past husband had. There's a strong proportion of the population of the world that is still living in the Stone Age. And
yeah, they got the blinders on, and they don't want to wake up, and they don't want to join the society. They don't want to evolve along with the times. There's a lot of people. I talk to people when I'm booking appointments and ask for their email address. They don't have a computer. I'm like, what? How do you not have a computer? How do you survive in today's day without a computer? I don't get it. But they don't have a computer. So I said, well, you won't get a receipt. Oh, that's okay. But it just blows me away. How does anybody function without a computer?
I don't know. And it's really funny when we had a week's time here a number of years back in October. There was an ice storm and everything got knocked down, and I didn't mind not having the heat. I didn't mind not having the light. I didn't mind not having to. I didn't mind having to lug buckets of water so we could flush the toilets. But what I missed the most was the internet.
Of course, we're addicted to it.
Oh gosh,
how do you live without it? Right.
And but what's frightening, at least for me, well, not frightening, but what's disquieting, is that they're now working with these EVP blasts, which would knock out all of the electrical stuff.
Right. A friend of mine across the street from me is a very big EVP researcher and records a lot of EVP. And for people that don't know, it's electronic voice programming that people are able to pick up voices from beyond and get it on tape or digital or whatever, where you can hear voices from the graves, usually from the gravesite. But the voices are there, and you hear it on this equipment, and it's a whole other end of metaphysics, and it's more paranormal than metaphysics. So.
Yeah. But it validates the fact that there are
there's life after death.
Sure. Oh, of course there is. And it's but in all of our working with excuse me, with HAARP, with adjusting the weather, with learning how to use electromagnetic pulses to knock out electronics and stuff like that.
Huh?
I mean, it is disquieting that it's sad that every new invention that comes up that comes out of the ingenious minds of people, the first thing the government wants to do is to make it a weapon. And I find that sad.
Well, they take away any type of power, control, or truth from us. So whatever they can do to manipulate society, and if it means something for defense, or it means that we don't know anything and they know everything. Look, the whole UFO thing has been a secret for how many years now? And Kennedy was killed partly because he was going to expose the UFOs. Hillary Clinton knows about the UFOs. It's so stupid to keep hiding all of it. It's true that the universe has visitors. We're not the only civilization in the universe.
No, and well, what gets me, what bothers me is if you go to China or if you go to South America, I mean, there's full disclosure. Everybody knows about the UFOs, and yet
well,
in
we're
this,
the only country in the world that doesn't have health care provided to everybody. So, I mean, there's always something about the U.S. It's supposed to be this big, powerful country, and yet we're the most rigid in many ways, and we don't take care of our people. We'll take care of a broken country before fixing the poverty here in our own home.
yeah,
Kids are starving. Kids are starving.
Well, look at Appalachia. I mean, the poverty there is overwhelming.
Yeah, but they'll go overseas before they help anybody here.
I know, and I've never understood that.
I haven't either.
I've also never understood that we depend so much on foreign oil when our oil that we drill here, we send overseas and then we buy back. Now that just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, I'm sure that there's some sort of political wisdom behind it, but I've never understood it. We have enough oil to keep us going for, God, decades and decades and decades. And by then, hopefully there will be secondary sources of fossil fuel or energy. I mean, come on, windmills. And have you ever driven across the country?
No, I have not, but I live in California and there's windmills out in Palm Springs. So I've seen the energy mills and I think they're beautiful, but no, I haven't driven cross country. I usually fly.
Patrick and I drove from San Francisco to Connecticut 7 years ago. And I had never seen the windmills, and we saw them on the plains. And they were amazing. And one night when we stopped, there was a trailer truck that was carrying just one of the blades. And oh my goodness, it was huge. And they're silent, they're quiet, they don't make any noise. Of course, they probably kill birds, but it just, you look at that and you think, if we can get energy that way, that's amazing. And if we use a whole bunch of different modalities to get the power that we need, I mean, there's certainly the electricity that's generated by the waterfalls and stuff like that. I mean, Niagara, sends out.
I've been in Niagara Falls. It's beautiful, but whether they use it as energy, I don't know. I know.
Yeah, they do. They use it. It provides a tremendous amount of the electricity for the Eastern Seaboard.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how much, but a lot. No, we've got so much here. We're so rich in so many different areas, and yet, a corporate entity is taking over and, in a way, trying to stamp out the spiritual. And
it's always been that way. That's why we're going to have even a harder time trying to get the message out, because the path is getting narrower and people are being swayed in different directions, and you've got to really lure people back to that there's a God, but how can there be a God if this is what's happening? It's always the questions of, if there's really a God, why so much negativity? Why is God allowing this? But people forget that this is all man's will, not God's will.
Well, right, and we're here to learn. So, if this were heaven, something went terribly wrong. But it's not hell either. It is a place to learn. And I often tell people that, we create our reality by our perception of it. So that no matter how difficult things are, you can find joy and laughter. And once you found the joy and laughter, then everything dissipates and you move on to the next lesson, of course, but you have a respite. And that's the other thing that I see people forgetting, is that laughter is such an important aspect and quality to our lives. And it's called enlightenment. It does mean lighten up. And the lighter we become, the more easily we're able to, let go of the density of our physical reality and understand that there is joy and in spirit. And once you touch into that, it changes the way you look at life tremendously. I mean, my husband died, and if I hadn't had the spiritual understanding that he'd moved on, he wasn't really ended, and that it was. I think that's one of the things when
you probably would have grieved for a longer period of time and gone deeper, even though you had your own grieving period, but you had an acceptance.
Well, yeah, and he did point out to me, he said, if you overdo this grieving crap, he said you're a hypocrite.
Yeah, because of what you preach and how you respond.
So, I didn't think it was very fair of him to pull that on me, but it was kind of like, he said, my job here is done and I'm moving on. And I said, well, I have a list. All of your jobs aren't done. He said, no, what I was here for, I'm done. I'm finished. And he had stage 4 lung cancer, so he was in a great deal of pain. And I said, well, then absolutely move on to whatever comes next for you. And he just looked at me and he said, I'm not afraid of moving on. He said, I'm worried about you. And I said, oh, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be okay. And of course I was. But it is, you have to, when things like that happen, you have to remind yourself that if I truly believe this, then I have to embrace it. And I have to keep going. And it was, I think, one of the more difficult lessons so far this lifetime. But
losing my mom, it took me 3 years to get over it. And I think that's why I don't like to channel anymore. Since she passed away, I don't like to communicate with people from the other side. It's really weird how it all kind of shifted for me with that.
Well, don't you think, too, that there are times and phases that we go through where one modality is stronger than another?
Maybe. I mean, I did a lot of channeling. Part of my book is on people's testimonies of the channeling that I did for them while I'm interweaving all the accidents and the spiritual. It's just trying to pull the chapters together so that it makes sense. And I'm not good at all of that. But
well, yeah, when the time is right, it'll all go together and it'll be fabulous.
Yeah.
But maybe you still are missing some chapters too.
No, I'm missing the money to make it right. I can't pay the person I want to get the book done.
Oh, well, maybe you're supposed to do it yourself. Well, listen, I had somebody steal my website, and
steal your website.
Yes,
your whole domain,
the whole thing. She told me that she was going to help me, and I gave her all the passwords and everything. And then the next thing I know, I no longer have my website, and because she told me it was too hard. And so I had to pay somebody to hack into my own website to get my website back.
That's crazy.
And
I've had my site hacked, and I've had to rebuild the site. I've gone through that.
Well, it was interesting because she kept telling me it was all too hard and I couldn't possibly do it. And so when I finally got my website back, I went and spoke to someone who was well-versed in WordPress, and I said, now teach me, please. I mean,
you could do it yourself.
Exactly. And when I found out how damn easy it was, I just shook my head and it was like, okay, so.
Gee, I could have had a V8.
Yeah. Truly. But it was sort of like, instead of saying, to whoever, oh, you do it, it's too hard. I can't possibly do it. I don't have the whatever. Now I basically say to people, show me how to do this, because I want to be able to take care of myself and my stuff. I don't want to have to depend on someone else to do it for me. And Patrick and he published 3 books, and I have one out there, and I have one that I'm working on, and he did it all, but at some point in time, I will roll up my sleeves and I will say to somebody, now teach me how to do this because I have a publishing company. I should be able to figure this out. And it taught me a lot about myself. It taught me that if you stop learning, you stop growing. And if you stop growing, there's no point in your being here.
Right.
So it's an exciting time. And I think it's great that you've got a book coming along here. So
yeah, it's halfway done.
Well, and it's also it's a wonderful teaching tool to share with people the journey that you've been on. And my God, the journey you've been on is phenomenal. And I'm sure you got a long way to go yet, but I mean, it's amazing the number of radio shows and TV things. And
well, I've been doing it since 1994, so it's a long time.
But also the foundational stuff that you did. I mean, you've got all of the work that you've done with CEOs and
I've done probably over 100,000 readings and channeling sessions and healing sessions, and I've touched a lot of lives in 24 years. So I have a lot to be grateful for that, but there's a lot I don't remember. There's a lot I don't hold on to anymore. There's a lot of interests that are changing at this point in my life. I'm 62 now, and I was 40 when I got into radio, and I may be going back on the air in January. I haven't decided yet, but there's a couple of irons in the fire. And then I'm also thinking of real estate, just getting out of metaphysics altogether, and I'll make use of my gift helping people find their home. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
Actually, that's something that I've done, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, we'll see.
I had a lot of clients who were realtors, and one of them complained, I take these people to 100 houses, and I said, well, why don't you just tune into what you think that would be appropriate to them and steer them in those directions? And this one woman said, well, can you do that for me? And so for quite a while, I worked with her and helped people.
I hope she gave you commission.
Oh no, I did it for free. It was fun. I mean, I wanted to be a real estate agent so badly for quite a while, because I just love walking into people's houses and checking them out.
Right, I do too.
It's kind of like, I can remember going into one house when I was looking for houses, and they had used sheets for wallpaper, and how clever that was, and it really looked good. And it's just, I have this thing for houses. I don't want to do it actually, but at one point in time, I thought that would be the coolest job ever, just being able to look at people's houses, and then if somebody bought something, that would be a lot of fun. But it didn't work out. But I like.
It's not your calling. Where's Scott? Is he just out there listening to all of this?
Yeah.
Hey, Scott.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm on mute. I'm in the background. I'm typing you a question right now. Can I ask you a question on air?
Absolutely.
I
knew that's what you wanted.
You just mentioned. You said that you're gonna retire from metaphysics.
I may.
How can you retire from metaphysics? Isn't that sort of a spiritual thing? I mean,
yeah, of course it is. It's always a part of who I am, but I don't know if I want to do it for a living anymore. I don't know if I want to continue being the healer, being the psychic, being the fixer, I don't know, even though I try to get away from it and I'm pulled right back. I look at going to epidemiology after 40 years. I look at going into corporate. I look at real estate. I look at anything else. And then I always go back to, well, I just stay who I am, which is a healer and a reader. And it's just, sometimes it gets old, like everything else. It gets tiring, like everything else. And I got to self-promote. And with all of what's been going on since these 2 surgeries and now the accident, it's just, I don't have the energy to put it out there. But a month from now, it'll be different because I'll be feeling better. And I'll probably just be on a higher level. But you're right. It's a part of who I am. And the energy, the reading, the clairvoyance, the clairaudience, the clairsentient, the mediumship, the healing, all of that is part of what makes me who I am on a mental, physical, spiritual level. And when I integrate all of that, I become very whole. And most people don't understand that they've all got it, and it's just learning how to tweak it so that the fragmentation comes together and the pain goes away so that the moment is vivid and the outcome can be a lot more sustainable when it comes to being productive. And that's what I'm looking at for myself, because right now I've gone through like a little bit of fragmentation and I've got to become more integrated again. So it's just a thing I'm talking about. If I give it up, but it's like, where am I going to go? Where am I going to go? I don't know.
Yeah.
How much more studying do I need?
Right. It's not like I'm or you or dancing to a different drummer or yet marching to a different drummer. It's just I'm not aloof to it. I'm just in a metaphysical type of world.
You're interested in it?
Well, I mean, I feel like, yeah, I feel like that's my consciousness. I'm just like you brought up the bird, the rainbow.
Right.
There's always signs. Signs are happening to everybody all the time.
Absolutely.
And it's whether you see it or not. And I'm really glad I see these things. And I'm kind of glad I got to be a part of the show tonight because I just learned something about my conscience. Anyway.
Well, then something that was said tonight awakened in you or inspired you or you related to or you went and had the aha experience where something resonated. And that's good.
Well, yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm a character, I make people laugh all the time. I'm definitely a different type of person in a white collar world. And that's because I notice all this. I just notice these things. I see signs in metaphysics. I'm in another reality.
Well, continue to embrace it.
So you can't retire, and God bless you.
Okay, thank you. Here's my answer.
Yeah, I can't imagine how you could possibly deny that great a part of yourself. I mean, it has to have been part of the point of this lifetime.
It's part of the lifetime, all right. I mean, I've been doing it for 24 years.
Yeah. Well, I have a few years on you, and
I know.
And there are times when you're not as involved, but it's always there. And sometimes you do have to take a break.
Yeah, it's like music, and once it's inside you, it's there. You're always a musician.
Oh, absolutely. And it's what keeps me going, to be honest with you. It's what gives me a vitality of life. I just can't imagine what my life would be like if I didn't have this field to play in. And I have, since I retired in my 40s, so that's 30 some years ago, and it's sort of like teaching was I was bogged down by it, and it just it wasn't challenging, and it wasn't rewarding. And I taught handicapped children. I taught mentally retarded children, and I loved working with the kids. I hated their parents, but I loved
I hear that from all my teacher friends.
Oh my goodness. And the administration. Oh, yeah. If I could burn the administration building down and get rid of the parents, it would have been great. but
my
then
friends have said that clients call saying that, questioning if they're going to be fired, if they're going to be, up against the wall with the principal. What about this parent that said this? If I say that, and am I going to get ticketed? Am I going to get written up? And it's like, oh my God, I hear all these horror stories.
Oh yeah, no, but the reality is it wasn't stimulating for me. And when I had the car accident and I had to leave teaching and retire early, then suddenly there was magic in my life. And you can't exist without the magic. Once you've experienced it, you just don't let go of it. I mean, you could try to quit. You could probably take a break, but I'll tell you something, Dr. Linda.
Tell me. Yes,
I will tell you for sure, if you try to back off of it, you'll have another accident.
It's going to come get me.
It'll come and get you. It'll drag you kicking and screaming. I know that there were 7 years where I kept telling people, well, no, I'm not psychic. I just have a great imagination. And they would say, well, how do you explain that this came true and this came true and this came true? And I just shrugged my shoulders. Well, it's a coincidence. And of course, now I don't believe in them. But at the time, it was like, it can't be this easy. And for me, it really is easy. And yet I've learned so much, and I learned from every person that I sit down and I read. And something special happens. There's a special energetic.
Yeah, it's a fulfillment.
And it's like, son of a gun, isn't that amazing? And I will grant you that there have been time frames where there was a period of time where I had fallen down the stairs during a hurricane, and I didn't know it, but I had cracked my my hip, and it just hurt, and it was a hell of a black and blue mark, but life went on. But what happened was, in healing, it calcified into the hip joint, and I was having extraordinary pain, and for 5 years I was literally on crutches, screaming most of the time, until somebody took an X-ray and said, well, you need a hip replacement. But for those 5 years, I didn't do anything.
No, you were in too much pain. You didn't even know.
And so once the hip was replaced, it was like, now I can dance. And it was, I went right back to the readings and everything, and it was amazing. And it was exciting. So I you can take a break, but
well, okay.
say it's a break. Say I'm just. This is a short vacation. You don't have to give me the 2x4, the brick wall, because I think those times that I have felt like, do I really want to do this? And you stand back and you think, it does look rather crazy, actually, but it's real, and there's validity there, and it changes your life. And I know that if I am an ordained minister, and I did serve in the church for 5 years. And first church service, I bored everyone to death, and myself. I took a nap as well. And not only did I take a nap, but I forgot to take collection. And I thought they would never ask me back, because it was horrible, and it looked so easy. But I got better. Thank you so much. I'll be in touch with you.
Yes, please. We'll read each other. Let's exchange readings, and maybe we could even do a seminar together and meet halfway in the country or something. Absolutely. You've got my phone number. Call me tomorrow.
I will. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity.
Oh, my pleasure.